Blessings and welcome to The Path to Freedom. My name is Daniel Roquillo, and as always, I'm deeply grateful and honored that you're choosing to join me for a moment of expanding our consciousness and lifting our vibration, for a moment of allowing ourselves to come into ever greater and grander expressions, a moment of releasing and letting go of that which no longer serves, so that the new, the expanded, may come forth, may emerge in us and through us. So today we're going to talk about the path to freedom and what it means to be walking this path, or the path to awaken, the path of awakening, or the spiritual path, or whatever we want to call it. It's a beautiful path. That is what it says. It is a path of freedom. It is a path of awakening, of continuously expanding our consciousness, of continuously coming to new levels of understanding about the truth of the reality, the truth of who and what we are, the truth of spirit. So the first thing that we need to explore is the fundamental principles as we're walking this path, as opposed to perhaps walking the path of personal development. So what is it that discerns the spiritual path from the path of self-improvement, if there is ever such a thing? Well, obviously, it has to do with spirit. It has to do with the fact that what we're seeking to come into a greater and greater realizations of as we're walking this path is the who and the what of spirit, who and what God is. And that we continuously go deeper and wider and higher into knowing that the nature of God is good, that God is always for itself, as it expresses itself, as it is being itself, as it is easing itself in us and through all of creation. God is good, always for itself. So this is the fundament of this path that we continuously go deeper and wider and higher into. So this spiritual path of awakening, it is the path of realizing, of coming into ever deeper and greater and wider and more expansive and higher realizations of who and what God is, and thus who and what we are, as we and God are one, as God is absolute, as spirit is the only thing there ever is, omnipresent, infinite, eternal. And we can use whatever names we choose for this loving presence: infinite universe, infinite intelligence, divine love, life, the divine matrix, the unified field, God, whatever. It doesn't care. It doesn't care what we call it. And it's not all that important for us. I mean, it may have personal importance. We may have a personal preference, as what we choose to call it. But overall, ultimately, it doesn't matter, as long as we come into the realization that it is all that there is, and we're one with it, and it is good, right? So walking this path, and I choose to call it the path of freedom because that's what it is. The more steep we are in the awareness that God is for all, that we and God are one, thus all is for us, the more freedom emerges. The more we get to release and let go of that which no longer serves, which is actually what this path is all about. It is not ever about adding anything onto ourselves. So we're not adding new knowledge, we're not adding new skills, or we're not trying to improve anything. We're just sort of shedding away that which has been layered on top of the truth and the essence of who and what we are. We're peeling that off so that more of the light that we are, that we've always been, that we'll always be, may shine through, may come forth. So we're gradually being faced with perceptions, beliefs, stories, point of views, thoughts as to what should and should not be, coming to the surface. Beliefs and stories that may have served us so well in the past, and obviously the beliefs and the stories that have got us to the point where we are right now. But for us to move further, for us to keep walking, for us to keep expanding, we need to become aware of these. We need to be courageous enough to look at them honestly. Realize their invalidity, that yes, it may have served in the past, but now for me to go further, now for me to expand, this belief, this perception is no longer valid. It is no longer in alignment with where I'm going, with what is seeking to be birthed in us and through us. And that when I'm speaking about being birthed, I'm not really speaking about something new coming forth, other in the sense that a greater expression of who and what we already are that is coming forth. So we get to become aware. We get to become aware that this belief, this story, this perception no longer serves, so that we can release and let it go. And in that releasing and letting go, absolutely it is work. In releasing and letting it go, we sometimes need to treat our minds. We sometimes need to reprogram our minds through affirmations, through prayer, through meditation, through study, and all these beautiful techniques and tools that we have at our disposal. But in the releasing and letting go, the new just emerges. So there's a difference between transformation, which this is about. Transformation happens when we become aware of something that is not in alignment with who and what we are, when we realize that something else is seeking to come forth, and we're willing to do the inner work of releasing. So in the releasing, change happens. But we're not trying to change. We're not trying to improve. We're not trying to force new habits onto ourselves or force new habits into our lives. But as we expand our awareness, as we expand our consciousness, change happens. Transformation happens. Whereas on the path of personal development, we perhaps seek to become something. And so we work toward becoming that. Along the path of freedom, along the path of awakening, we realize that all of these personal attributes that we have added onto ourselves, that they are not the true essence of who and what we are. So we can drop them, we can release them. We're no longer trying to be of the world. We're not trying to move through the world seeking to get anything, to get approval, to get love, to get abundance, or whatever the case may be, to get health. We're not on this path to do that, but we're on this path to release, to give, to share. So we're constantly turning within, becoming aware, releasing, letting go. Turning within, becoming aware, releasing, letting go. Becoming aware, releasing, letting go. Becoming aware, releasing, letting go. All the while knowing that it is not up to us to make any of this happen. But as we and God are one, we can lean onto God. We can lean into God, knowing that, as Jesus perhaps said, it is not me that is doing the work. It is the Father within me. It's the Spirit within me. It's the divine essence of whom what I am that is doing the work. So even though this path can be lonely, in the sense that people that may have been in our lives tend to fall away as we grow, as we expand. We sort of grow apart. We're no longer a vibrational match to each other. So conditions fall away, people fall away, friends fall away, even family sometimes fall away. They may come back later on, but initially it can be a quite lonely road to walk. But we're never alone, because we always have spirit to lean on to. To lean on to. As it is being stated and said, if we were to blame anything or something, the only thing there is to blame is ignorance. Another word for ignorance is not understanding, lack of awareness. So the path of freedom is continuously expanding our awareness, expanding our consciousness. And by doing so, that which is not in alignment with that expansion, with that sustained expansion, the sustained higher vibrations, everything that is not in alignment, it has to go. It has to fall away. Yes, there is gnashing of teeth and there are challenges. So this is not a smiles only path, not at all. But we continuously move through spaces of chemicalization, of sweet release and let go when things are being very turbulent within us. And as I've been prone to say, sometimes feeling bad is good in progress. So when the ego temporarily goes blind, it's been so used to being and operating in a certain way, it's been so used to a certain paradigm, and then when through our expanded awareness that paradigm falls away, when it dissolves, the ego gets confused. We get confused because we no longer know who we are. And sometimes that chemicalization turns into dark night, where we lose all of our connection to everything that we used to know, everything that we used to believe. We no longer know, we no longer believe. So it's pitch dark. It's pitch dark. So we get to move through it. We get to emerge on the other side. So much more brightness, so much more luminosity, so much more light. And we realize that that very dark and dank space that we moved through was actually a gift and a blessing, as we have now moved to a completely new level. All this to say, all this to say that this is a beautiful path. This is an absolute amazing, magical journey, adventure that we get to walk, where every minute, even though we may not feel like it, every moment is a blessing. There is only one way to have lasting freedom, to have lasting joy, to have lasting love, to have lasting abundance, and that is by turning within, realizing that we are it. We are the joy. We are the peace. We are the love. We are the abundance. We are the wholeness. And when we know it in here, when we are it in consciousness, it becomes a reality. So in that sense, this beautiful path, it gives us immunity from the world insanity. We get to walk as living examples of peace and love and joy and generosity and kindness and compassion. Not because we're faking it, but because we're tapping into the eternal source, the only source and supply there ever is, which is God, which is Spirit, which is the universe. So I invite you onto this path. I'm so happy that you're here. Until we meet again, I bless your day, and I bless your way. Beautiful, magnificent, and powerful being. With much love. Namaste.